Elzine's voice rang out urgently in the tense atmosphere. Shirone, calm down. You can't let your emotions overwhelm your reason. But her advice seemed to fall on deaf ears. He gritted his teeth, his blue eyes narrowed with fury, and a dangerous crimson aura began to emanate from his body. Anger had completely clouded his judgment. After a moment of chilling silence, a roar tore through the space. From the darkness, a gigantic jade-colored magical tidal wave erupted, surging fiercely like a released monster. Faced with the terrifying power he had created, Shirone could only stand motionless, his fists clenched tight. The energy storm quickly spiraled out of control. His body faltered amidst the ferocious waves of magic, roaring, crashing, and seeming to tear everything to shreds.
Shirone's body sank into the endless darkness of the cold water, sparkling ripples and bubbles surrounding him like lost stars. A stream of thoughts drifted through his mind, a question echoing in the silent space. His arm reached out, trying to grasp something invisible in the deep water. Shirone told himself unconsciously, I wanted to become stronger, to be able to protect my friends. I don't want to be a helpless wizard, unable to do anything in dangerous situations. The image of Amy Karmas suddenly appeared, fragile and precious, like a memory he had to reach out and grasp to protect. The fear of becoming useless drove him. Shirone's bright blue eyes gleamed with steely determination. In the depths of his eyes reflected the faint image of Adrius Miro, the one who held the answer he sought. That's why I want to find it. My origin, my roots. He desperately reached out, trying to touch the radiant figure of the goddess shining at the end of the deep, swirling waterway. And then, as consciousness gradually faded, Shirone's body floated motionless in the vast, silent space. Facing him, another figure appeared, standing tall in a faint red aura.
In the deep and silent space of his inner mind, Shirone stood alone, a radiant red aura enveloping his body. He wanted to erase the suffering that had caused him to hesitate. Facing him, another version of himself slowly materialized, white hair obscuring his eyes, the corner of his mouth twisted into a mocking smile. You know it best, the voice echoed, cold and cruel. You are a rootless Ben, and a tree that has lost its roots. Behind the phantom, a gigantic tree made of burning red energy emerged, its branches gnarled and twisted, as if writhing in pain, before shattering. The other self threw his head back and laughed with glee, his voice finishing with bitter venom. We'll wither and die. Shirone kept his eyes closed, silently listening to the curse. The shadow of the other self suddenly became enormous, towering like a mountain, while he was just a tiny, weak dot at its feet. However, when he opened his eyes, Shirone's gaze held no trace of wavering. He raised his head to face the colossal illusion, his voice speaking calmly but firmly. My roots don't only come from the past.
Beneath the cold, still water, Shirone sank deeper into a profound contemplation. Tiny bubbles clung to his blonde hair, sparkling in the faint light filtering through the surface. He looked up, and within the swirling current of memories, a truth suddenly dawned. After talking to Marcia, I realized, Shirone thought to himself, images of his dearest friends appeared. Rian stood there, steadfast, with his sword on his back, and Elzane gentle yet resolute. They were always there, a solid support. Not only them, but many others. The teachers, the comrades who had weathered so many storms with him, all emerged, becoming a part of his strength. That there are always people who support me, people who are willing to be my roots. That's why. Shirone's eyes widened, shining with an unprecedented steely resolve, piercing the ambiguity in the water. An image of Amy flashed through his mind. I won't hesitate any longer. In the same floating space, Amy was also there. Her auburn hair floated around her, and her clear blue eyes stared into the void with a silent melancholy, as if waiting for something that had been long overdue.
The surrounding space was submerged in a chaotic and fantastical emerald green, like the turbulent depths of the ocean. Amidst the swirling energy, a vibrant red aura began to envelop Shirone. He closed his eyes briefly, concentrating all his surging power. A confident and challenging smile touched his lips as he opened his eyes, his gaze sharp. A steely determination echoed in his mind. I must believe in the faith everyone has placed in me. For a fleeting moment, visions of Ryan and Elzane flashed through Shirone's mind, as if they were being submerged in the same chaotic, magical current that had imprisoned him. Even the guards were flailing helplessly, their bodies contorted in the raging torrent of energy. Then, in an eerily silent instant, a blinding explosion of golden light erupted from Shirone's position. The entire space was scorched in a radiant, sunlight glow. The terrifying force of the explosion hurled the guards backward like puppets with severed strings, offering no resistance. The light was so intense that Ryan and Elzane had to shield their eyes, their faces etched with utter astonishment at the unimaginable magical power that had just been unleashed.
The bandit leader only managed a piercing quah of utter agony as he felt his jaw about to shatter. The searing pain was quickly replaced by sheer astonishment. Between his clenched fingers, Palkoa's eyes widened, staring at a blinding light that had just erupted. He trembled, whispering, What is this?" The light emanated from Shirone's palm, a sphere of energy, as radiant as a small star, emitting rays of golden and jade-green light hovered powerfully. Shirone himself stared in disbelief at the power surging from his body, whispering unconsciously, "Light!" His entire body was enveloped in a brilliant aura, and his once clear blue eyes now burned with an imposing jade-blue color. Shirone's magical light illuminated the faces of his friends standing not far away. Rian and Elzine stood side by side, both stunned. Rian frowned, his eyes filled with both surprise and tension, while Elzine's jaw dropped, unable to believe what was happening before her eyes. In another corner, Amy Karmas also looked up, her eyes reflecting the magical light, filled with awe and overwhelmed by Shirone's extraordinary power.
A dazzling sphere of brilliant light gathered in Shirone's outstretched hand. The magical energy was so pure that it seemed to distort the surrounding space. His blue eyes blazed fiercely, his face hardening with unwavering determination. "I won't hesitate anymore." From below, Amy Karmas looked up in horror, her beautiful face pale with fear. She gasped, trying to scream desperately, "Wait!" But her plea came too late. Ignoring Amy's call, Shirone resolutely brought his energy-blazing fist down. Instantly, a colossal pillar of light descended from the sky, slamming into the ground. An earth-shattering explosion erupted, the ground shattering into pieces, debris flying everywhere. The entire area was engulfed in a wave of destructive light.
In her immediate memory, Amy Karmas slightly curled her lip, her eyes showing boredom as she took a sip of her drink. She thought to herself, what a predictable tactic. Is he not even bothering to hide his intentions? If I act rashly, that Gis guy might be in danger. Her gaze swept over Palkoa, who was sitting leisurely with another woman. A decision flashed through Amy's mind. I'll use Red Eye to bolster my spirits. He'll definitely reveal his true intentions when he sees me drink this. With that thought, she resolutely brought the glass to her lips. At that very moment, a terrifying explosion ripped through the tense silence. The main door was blown inward, sending the guards flying backward like broken puppets. Amy startled and turned around, nearly dropping her glass. Her eyes widened, showing clear panic and confusion. What? How are they here? What should I do now? And standing tall amidst the billowing smoke and dust in the doorway, which had just been destroyed, were Shirone and Elzane. Shirone's face was cold and calm, while Elzane stared straight ahead with determination in her eyes. Their sudden appearance left Amy completely stunned, unsure of how to react.
Amy Karmas sat with her legs crossed on an expensive leather armchair, her fiery red hair standing out under the warm yellow light. Her face held a hint of annoyance and regret. I missed my chance to greet them, she thought to herself, a feeling of unease rising within her. Just then, a terrifying noise rang out, drowning out the music. Dust and debris flew everywhere. At the center of the chaos, the leader of the parrot gang, Palkoa, was becoming extremely angry. Witnessing the horrific scene, Rian and Elzane could only embrace each other, their faces pale, screaming in terror.
From beneath the rubble, Palcoa slowly stood up, his face contorted with anger and pain. He clenched his teeth, his eyes filled with bloodshot rage, snarling through gritted teeth. "You bastard! Who are you?"
Palcoa gritted his teeth and growled, his eyes full of menace as he glared at the blond boy. "Which side are you on?" Facing the bandit leader, Shirone Aryan remained strangely calm. He replied in an even tone without a trace of fear. "My name is Shirone, from the Alpheus Magic Academy." Shirone's blunt introduction left his companions, including Elzine, speechless. Horror was etched on their faces. Gist the pickpocket couldn't believe what he had just heard. He cried out in a panic, "What? What are you doing? Why reveal your identity?" Upon hearing the word academy, Palcoa burst into a savage laugh, his face contorting grotesquely. He sneered, "Ha ha ha ha, an academy student. You're not even a proper wizard yet, and you dare to cause trouble here? Do you know that if I report this to the school, you'll be expelled immediately?" At the threat, Shirone only bowed his head slightly, indifferently uttering, "Whatever." His unbelievably nonchalant attitude caused Palcoa's laughter to freeze. He stammered in disbelief. "What?" Shirone raised his head, but his eyes were no longer on the leader. They turned to the red-haired girl being held in a corner of the room, a look both gentle and resolute. His voice became sharp and cold, containing a warning that could not be ignored. "To me, Amy is a more precious friend than the academy, or anything else in this world. If you dare bring my friend to a place like this again—"
Shirone's eyes flashed with a cold blue light, and he growled, each word laced with murderous intent, "I will destroy this place." The jewel on his tie flared, releasing a powerful surge of energy. Without hesitation, Ryan snatched up his greatsword. "Exactly!" he roared, swinging the massive weapon with all his might. A resounding thud echoed through the room as the blade slammed into the wooden floor just in front of Palcoa, sending splinters flying. The entire gang flinched back, but their leader merely smirked. Ryan locked eyes with him, declaring firmly, "You think we won't save our friend just because we're afraid of getting expelled? I, Ryan Ogent, don't live that way." Standing beside him, Elzane also raised a broken wooden table leg high, her face set with determination. "Me, Elzane Tess, neither. Remember that. We'll make you regret it if you lay a hand on Shirone's group." Hearing the strange name, Ryan turned in confusion, sweat dripping down his temples. "Shirone's group? What the heck is that? And where did you get that stick?" "Shut up," Elzane snapped irritably. Amidst the chaos, Palcoa remained calm. He gave a contemptuous smile, revealing yellowed teeth. "I think you're misunderstanding something," he said slowly, his tone dripping with condescension.
Inside the dimly lit room, the faint scent of oak cask wine lingered. The bandit leader Palcoa smirked, gesturing possessively towards Amy. A cruel glint flashed in his eyes as he looked at Shirone. "Falcos, you say? That's the first time I've heard that name," Palcoa growled, his tone challenging. "And I don't think you have the right to tell a lady where she should be. She came here of her own free will. Why don't you try kneeling and begging her to leave with you?" Behind him, Elzine couldn't contain her anger. She raised her wooden staff high, yelling, "Amy isn't in a state to make decisions for herself." But Shirone completely ignored Palcoa's taunts and Elzine's anger. He walked past them, his calm gaze focused on one person alone. He went straight to the luxurious armchair where Amy was sitting, her eyes vacant, lost in her own world. Shirone's voice rang out, gentle yet firm, breaking the tense atmosphere. "Amy, let's go home." His words stunned both Palcoa and Elzine. The bandit leader looked up, his smug expression transforming into utter bewilderment. Shirone extended his hand to Amy. In the warm light that surrounded him, the red-haired girl slowly raised her head. Her eyes were still a little dazed, but then she softly responded, placing her hand in his. "Yes." The two stood up together, hand in hand, and quietly walked away, leaving the others in the room in stunned silence.
Elzine could only utter a surprised, "Huh," her eyes wide and stunned at the unfolding scene. Palcoa trembled, cold sweat pouring down his forehead. He couldn't believe his eyes, his mind reeling in panic. How can this be? That little brat used loop. A terrifying thought flashed through his mind, causing him to stammer. "Don't tell me you're from the Karmas family?"
In response to his question, Amy Karma stood there, her fiery red hair and eyes gleaming with a cold red light, exuding an aura of arrogance. She smirked slightly, her voice full of condescension. "Oh, you know my family. That makes things easier. Everyone here is addicted to loop, aren't they? That must be your main source of income." Palco was speechless and helplessly watched Amy's back as she turned to leave. Reaching the door, she paused, not turning around, but her final threat was as sharp as a knife, echoing through the hall. Her eyes blazed with a bewitching red, her voice becoming cruel and menacing. "If you dare send anything to the school, I'll make sure you can't earn a single cent in this business anymore."
Amy strode confidently in her black and red trimmed evening gown, facing Palcoa, who was slumped in his chair. Overwhelmed by her presence, the gang leader could only lean back slovenly. He cursed inwardly, "What terrible luck! This little thing wasn't bluffing at all." Cold sweat poured from Palcoa's forehead as he realized his perilous situation. "With the power of a first-class family, I'm definitely going to lose this business. But damn it, then I won't be able to buy any more loops." Outside, the silent night enveloped the magnificent building, the lit windows like eyes watching the drama unfolding. Standing with the others, Elzane quietly observed, a realization flashing through her mind. Shirone must have known that Amy wasn't affected by the loop. "Oh, Amy," Elzane thought, her cheeks flushing as she recalled the moment earlier. She suddenly understood the reason she didn't move when Shirone called the first time. In her memory, the image of Shirone appeared, him gently calling, "Amy, let's go home." At that time, Amy had just sat motionless in her chair, her face downcast, lost in her own sadness. It wasn't because of the loop, Elzane concluded to herself, her heart filled with understanding and admiration.
Meanwhile, Amy Karmas was still simmering with anger from the earlier incident, her lips pouting slightly in sullen annoyance. On the other side, Rian Ogent and Elzane Tess were walking together. Rian looked at Amy with a puzzled expression, while Elzane only glanced at him with a meaningful look. Apparently having heard Rian make some unflattering comment about the redhead, Elzane teased, "A speck of dust. What speck of dust could be so cute?" In her mind's eye, the image of Amy standing shyly next to Shirone, their hands clasped tentatively, appeared vividly surrounded by a sparkling romantic aura. Witnessing that affectionate scene, Elzane involuntarily sighed longingly. How wonderful. However, Rian completely missed the implication in her words. He turned to her, looking clueless, and asked, "Are you saying you're hungry?" Elzane was speechless. She turned away and muttered, "Never mind, it's nothing."